Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we are going to talk about Ansible overview on. So, what is Ansible? Ansible is designed around the way people work and the way people work together. Ansible is simple, Ansible is powerful, and Ansible is agentless. So, why Ansible is simple? Because human readable automations, no special coding skill needed, task executed in order. Why Ansible is powerful? Because app deployment, configurations management, workflow orchestrations. And why Ansible is agentless? Because agentless architectures use OpenSSH and WinRM, no agent to exploit or update. Ansible also automate all the things. Ansible is the only automation engine that can automate an entire application's lifecycle and continuous delivery pipeline. And these are the use case and integrations. So in use case, we can do the provisioning, configurations management, app deployment, continuous delivery, security and compliance, orchestrations and integrations, infrastructures, networking, containers, cloud, and DevOps tools. Working in IT, you are likely doing the same task over and over. What if you could solve problems once and then automate your solutions going forward? Ansible is here to help. What do you want to automate today? Infrastructure, application, networks, containers, security, and cloud. Ansible versus other tools. If you compare Ansible with a Safe, Puppet, Saltstack, CloudFormations, and Terraform, so in the terms of a code, cloud, type, infrastructure, language, and architectures, so Ansible is in terms of code open source, cloud it support all type for configurations management, infrastructures mutable, language procedurals, and architectures client only. Ansible in XebiaLabs, if we'll talk, this is the like in periodic table for DevOps tools, and they have rated Ansible in top, and as a DevOps tools. If you'll see that in a C, Puppet, Ansible, and Saltstack. So we'll talk more in Ansible architectures in later, but in just the overview, what we have in Ansible engines, we have a inventory, we have a plugins, we have a modules, we have a APIs, and then public or private cloud can integrate with Ansible engines, and developer, release manager, or like an administrator, they can write the playbooks and modules and inventory. And after that, in Ansible engines, we can control the network firewall, and we can deploy that in n number of hosts in on premises or in the cloud. Ansible control server and inside. So basically in Ansible, where we can install and do that in all operations or control, that Ansible server or control server, we need a module, playbook, inventory, and then Ansible configurations. So with help of a Python and SSH utility, it will be connect to that in n number of remote as per the configure into that inventory, either the Windows or Linux. So Ansible architectures environment, something like that you can create for real time, uh, like Ansible server, which is Ansible control server, is connected with help by admin users, release managers, or build tools, deployment tools like Jenkins, and all code is there into that in source control like in SVN, Bitbucket, Git, or any other repository. Whereas on basis of the inventory configurations, the deployment will be performed or configurations will be performed in development environment, QA environment, which is the on premises, or in the UAT, or like in pod, in that in a cloud environment with help of a SSH. For this also we'll talk in dedicated lectures in more details. After that Ansible configurations and deployment, we can use that if you want to do that in automated, so developer will be commit the code and push into the central repository. With help of a Jenkins, code will be check out, build, test, and with help of Ansible it will do the deployment into that in QA environment or software configurations, or like in OS configurations. And once that is approved, again Ansible will come into the picture and do the deployment into that in prod environment. We'll also talk in more details in how to write the code and what is the best way to write. And just one example, if you write that in file module, for just copy the file from source to that in destinations and provide the some access. In that way, first one is the incorrect one. Better to write in this way, and we can understand that in better. So we'll talk into that in once we'll do that in a real-time example, but this is just overview. Similarly, we are going to use that in Ansible playbook with roles. So if you'll see this example, host is there where web server, and in that we are just installing that in as a role zip tar and git. We also see that in more installations, way of installing that in Ansible in Windows, or like in Mac, or like in any other operating system. But Mac I will not cover, but the similar commands will be work like that. Verifying that in installations, after installation, just type that in Ansible, you will get something like that. And Ansible will use that in a doc command in details. So just one example, if you perform Unix command like in df-h in local, like in where you are in there at the moment, you get some output. However, you can configure that in Ansible in inventory, and you can perform that in 100 servers or plus 100 servers at a time without logging into that server. We'll also talk in more details, what Vagrant installations, VirtualBox installations, and then with help of a Vagrant and VirtualBox in Windows 10 PC, we'll configure the Ansible server and one web server, and we'll SSH into that in Ansible server and web server with help of a dedicated private IP address, and for web server and Ansible control server. We'll also talk in this course like in Ansible Boto dynamic inventory, which is a part of AWS, and Ansible and AWS connectivity, and we'll create few resources like in EC2 and BPC. So we will also talk in that in this course like in overview of AWS, at least understanding that in IAM, EC2 and VPC in a high level, and such kinds of architectures will create that with help of Ansible. Just one example, while considering there is no charge for learning in that case, but you can opt it out, and I'll definitely provide you that in more details how to use that in other modules as well without any headache. So I'll give you that in link and in more details for creating that in other modules. But how to pass the parameter, how to use that in and API and utilize for either creations, destroy, or like in any other purpose. So something like that, in AWS we'll also talk that in different terminology like in a availability zone, and which we say that in AG and different data center. So we'll consider that in on premises and AWS connectivity, and in I can say that in this is all about in that in overview of this course, and just go through that in lecture wise. Most probably it will be additions and deletions on basis of the demand of the other student, and if I think something need to be aired, I'll be do that definitely. And thanks for watching.